Welcome back, everybody, here in the Renata studio, which is substituting for our Cabo Leaders Retreat training. And man, we've had a great day. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And listening to Richard Stock just kind of put it all together with really helping to just ask questions. See, the one thing about question-based selling that is so important is to remember this, is that when you are telling people, they're always going to be in question. There's that element of mistrust, if you will, because we live in a very skeptical society. But if you can get people to answer questions, especially questions in the affirmative, then, I mean, if they say they want to be involved, or they say there's going to be benefits for being involved, or they say that this is the right decision for them, then guess what? It must be true because it came out of their own mouth. I love the way that was unfolded. Now, I just wanted to have a little reminder for our compliance department that, if you are talking at all about the ICM opportunity and explaining the compensation plan, you need to make sure that you put into your prospects' hands the average earnings disclosure statement so that they can see, on an average, here's how people are paid and this is what they're earning. We want to make sure that they get a clear understanding of what we do and how we do before they get involved. Because the worst thing that we ever want is for somebody to have an unrealistic expectation moving forward in the business. Well, I have got a ton of information together for you here. I'm going to start off with one of my favorite all-time books, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Napoleon said in that book, some of the things that he observed over time was that the story of practically every great fortune starts the day when a creator of ideas and a seller of ideas got together and worked in perfect harmony. If you think about the relationship between Renatus and you as independent contracted marketers, we are the creator of those ideas and that content. You are the seller of those ideas. And just as Napoleon outlined, I truly believe that, together when we work in perfect harmony, great things can be realized as a result of that. See, our entrepreneurship model is really simple. We create massive value for other people, and we do it at a profit. That's what we do. I mean, isn't that really what capitalism is? Capitalism is defined as when two or more individuals work in their own best self-interest for the benefit of others. Now, you're going, self-interest for the benefit of others? How does that work? Well, if you want to go create a widget and you're thinking, hey, listen, if I create this widget, it will solve these problems for these people, then if I solve their problems, they might want to purchase that widget, which is going to give me revenue to take care of my family. I'm working in my self-interest to create the widget that will bless their lives. They're working in their self-interest to purchase the widget that will solve a problem and bless their lives. That's what capitalism is. And in its purest form, it works so beautifully. So in Renatus, our entrepreneurship model is really simple, and it mirrors what we see in the marketplace. We create massive value for other people, and we do it at a profit. Now, Zig Ziglar said this, talking about skills and habits and consistency. Zig reminded us, he says, you have to be before you can do, and do before you can have. You have to be before you can do, and do before you can have. In other words, he put the formula together. It's not just about wishing, hoping, and envisioning that one day you'll be successful. He says, listen, you have to change yourself. Renatus is a process of becoming. If you want to become successful as a real estate investor, you've got to grow into that. If you want to become successful as a marketer and selling the Renatus educational programs, you've got to grow into that. It's all about developing the skills, the right habits, and then being consistent over time that are going to lead you to that. But you'll have to really change who you are so that you can get the results that you're looking for. Why do I say that? Because you might be thinking, hey, I'm perfect just the way that I am. The reality is that the decisions you have made to this point in time in your life have led you to exactly the place you are at this time in your life. If you're not happy with the results, you're not happy with the outcome, you've got to look back on the decisions you've previously made and realize that if you want something grander in the future, then you're going to have to make some decisions for change. You're going to have to develop different skills, develop different habits, and then you're going to have to be consistent over time so that you can become the person of your dreams, so that you can truly do those things that are going to bring about the result you're looking for. You have to be before you can do, and do before you can have. Now, I'm going to go back to a little bit of my history. You know, back in the early days, my wife Holly and I, we got married. As many of you know, we were high school sweethearts, and I served a mission for my church, and then I came back, and we got married. And you know what happens after you get married? Because, I mean, before you get married, I mean, you know, you're really working on yourself. You want to make sure that you're always looking good because you got to make sure that you're marketable, right? That person actually wants to continue forward with this commitment. After you get married, you get what I call comfortable. And we got comfortable. We started to gain a little weight and weren't in as great a shape as we were when we said our vows. So we decided, all right, it's time for us to go and do something, you know, that will help us to get in a little better condition. And she suggested aerobics, right? And I was like, yeah, I don't know that I want to be the only guy in an all-women aerobics class, you know, with my wife. That's just, yeah, that's probably, there's something else. There's got to be something else. So we found a dojo in Sugar House, Utah, and we started taking karate lessons. And I mean, we had a blast. We were having a great time. It was a fantastic workout. We were learning these wonderful skills. And we signed up with a guy by the name of Toshio Osaka. Sensei Toshio Osaka. Man, what a powerhouse of a smaller statured individual who commanded respect. Now, his story was really simple. I mean, you know, he grew up in Japan, and he went on to be the All-Japan national champion. He went on later, he coached Nichidai University to several national and world titles. He did a lot of amazing things, and someone from Salt Lake City, Utah saw him compete one time and was so impressed with him, he was willing to sponsor him to move to the United States so that he could teach his art to others. And that's how he landed here. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, this is a guy who accomplished so many incredible things and created so many amazing champions. And I will never, ever forget the words of wisdom that came from him, is that the basics is what's going to get you to the finish line. I mean, it really was. Now, he didn't say that in those words, but that pretty much was the outline of what he meant. All he taught us was punch, kick, block. Punch, kick, block. Punch, kick, block. It was the basic fundamentals. He taught it over and over and over and over. I can remember saying, you know, I said, Sensei, when are we going to learn how to do the double backflip with a twist kick, you know, and a Superman elbow to the jaw? When are we going to learn how to do that? When are you going to teach me how to do 360 spinning off of my heel and do all of this stuff? When am I going to learn how to do this and this and this and this and this? And he was like, you know what? Punch, kick, block. It was the basics. He reinforced that over and over and over and over and over so that it was no longer a reaction, it was a response. It was simply a response to whatever was taking place in your environment. And you became so proficient in the basics that you could do just about anything. That's the reason why he created so many champions. While everybody else is out there running around doing all this fancy footwork and fancy kick work and everything else, punch, kick, block, his champions, you know, were able to defeat others. It was an interesting time in my life. I didn't realize at the time how profound it was going to be when it came to getting involved with the direct sales industry. Because in our business, while everybody wants to do all this fancy stuff, those who make money stick to the basics. I mean, and sticking to the basics is what? It's all about see the people, tell the story, build for events, and follow up. I mean, you don't need to deviate from the 4 money-making activities. All you need to do is simply engage in them and embrace them, right? That's what it takes. So today's training for me is going to be how do we get back to the basics? How do we make sure that we stay focused on those things that are really going to make a big difference, right? Here's a great little thing to think about, and that is if you're dependent on someone else to close your prospects, you're in the wrong business. Now, I know some of you might be going, what? Come on, man. I mean, we've been taught by our leaders. All we got to do is just bring guests and put them in front of them. Just bring them to the meeting, bring them to the meeting, bring them to the meeting, bring them to the meeting. You know what? That is a good starting point. It really is. That is the most basic of starting points. If you don't know how to tell the story, you don't know how to build for events, you don't know how to follow up, you don't know how to close the business because you just got signed up last week, then guess what? Bring them to the meeting and let your leaders tell the story. Now, our meetings now are no longer in auditoriums, at least for a temporary time here. They are on Zoom, they're on webinars, they're on conference calls. So in the very beginning, yes, you want to expose people to the Renatus opportunity. You want to get them involved with real estate investing, whichever is your focus. Well, then bring them to the meeting. Bring them to the Zoom call. Bring them to whatever it is. But if you want to get into the Big Pay Club, I'm here to tell you right now, just like I said before, and it says on the screen, if you're dependent on someone else to close your prospects, you're in the wrong business. Seeing as how I've been taking you through a little bit of my history and kind of a walk down memory lane, I'm going to go back 34 years. 34, 35. It's been a while now. To when I had a friend of mine who kind of ambushed me, as they had a reputation of doing. But eventually, he got me. And he got me into Amway. And I remember starting in Amway thinking, this is an organization I never ever in my wildest dreams thought that I would be involved with. But that's where I got my start in the network marketing industry 34 years ago. When I got involved with Amway, they taught you a few things. They said, listen, man, seminar and rally. You never ever miss a meeting and you never come alone. So they really emphasized that. We got seminar and rally every single month. That was the equivalent of our Super Saturday. You never ever miss those meetings. The next thing is they said, we got an open meeting once a month. Once a month, that would be the equivalent of our introductory presentation, right? So once a month was all. We've got ours every week, sometimes multiple times a week, but theirs was once a month. The rest of the time, it was one-on-ones and home meetings. That's it. One-on-ones and home meetings. They called it showing the plan. You got to be able to show the plan, show the plan, show the plan, show the plan, show the plan. Everybody in that company who was serious about building a business could show the plan. Everybody was taught how to follow up. Everybody was taught how to follow up and ask for the order. Everyone. It wasn't one of those things where it was like, just bring your people and put them in front of me. Don't worry about learning that stuff. Just bring your people and put them in front of me. We'll do the telling and the selling and the closing from the front of the room. Well, that can work. It does work. But it doesn't give you the most effective way to build your business. It doesn't get you into what I call the Big Pay Club as far as top income earners for those who are out there driving sales. You've got to learn to do it for yourself, which is the reason why I started out with the conversation here on how being involved in Renatus is a process of becoming, and you've got to develop certain skill sets, certain habits, right? And then a consistency over time that are going to really lead you to success. You heard from so many great people today. I mean, think about Bob Tierney's example. I remember Bob Tierney. He came into my previous company before New Varish. This was years back. And I remember meeting him at an intensive that we did and having him share some of his story with me. And he was frustrated at that time because he had gone through so many leads. As a matter of fact, it took him 1,100 leads, and I believe it was, 10 or 11 months. It was maybe it was 9 or 10 months. Anyway, it was a long period of time, and he went through 1,100 prospects to get himself 5-star qualified. 1,100. Now, we've been able to see what's happened to his career following that. But boy, those first 9 months or so, I mean, he wasn't very good at what he was doing, but he was persistent, and he continued to develop his skill set, and develop his confidence, and develop his habits. Now, would you say it's paid off? Yeah, I certainly would. Michael Huggins shared with you his story this morning, and he's talking a little bit about, what it was like those first 4 years. I mean, those first 4 years and how little income he made in those first 4 years as opposed to the next 6 years. And now we get to see him as a polished professional presenter, as an individual who really can share the story effectively and inspire people to make a change in their life. we got to see Umair and Yaz Hawk. I remember when, Umair first got started with the business. I was so intrigued because he's an old MMA fighter, and I got to watch some of his YouTube videos online, and he was a punishing fighter. He really was. So, we had a little bit of a martial arts background to bond off of, but he was not a salesman. He did not understand money-making activities. He did not understand how to generate leads, how to communicate effectively, how to, talk to people about this business, how to get folks to say, okay, I'm in, and accept the order. He didn't. Yaz, when she got started, same kind of a situation, but they have grown into it. See, whatever you want in life is just outside your comfort zone, not inside it. Because inside your comfort zone, well, that's pretty much indicative of what you have today based on what you're willing to do to get it. You've got to be able to expand beyond that to make that happen. So as we start our training today, I want you to understand that every single person in Renatus, especially in a COVID-19 environment, needs to learn how to share this business with others. You got to learn how to show the plan. You got to learn how to sit down and have a discussion and show people what we do, how we do it, how our education works, and why they would want to be involved. You've got to learn how to follow up, as Richard demonstrated in his role play with Yaz and Umair. You've got to learn how to do that. And you've got to learn how to ask for the order so that you can help people get engaged. And as you do that, then your life and your business will unfold in some pretty unique ways. I tell people all the time, who say, "Oh man, I'm just a real estate guy. Don't talk to me about that marketing opportunity thing." And I say, well, that's certainly your prerogative, and we've got an awful lot of students around the country who feel that way, especially in the beginning. But I'm amazed at how many times they come around to it, because what they start to realize is this. They start to realize that the same skill set that is required to be a successful real estate investor is learned through learning how to market our education in Renatus. Isn't it interesting how the two are well woven, kind of coupled together, if you will? So, in our business, remember this. Take this home with you. If you're dependent on someone else, your leaders, to go out there and close your prospect, you're in the wrong business. You want to make sure that you're doing it for yourself so that you can maximize the efficiencies and effectiveness of building our business. Now truly is the time. It is the time. Why? Well, because whenever there is anything that is of a massive disruption in the marketplace, that massive disruption naturally creates the dissatisfaction that people are feeling. And right now, look around. There's a lot of folks that are a little nervous about the future, and they want to shore up their future and their finances. So they're looking for better education. They're looking for better opportunity. They're looking for ways that they can invest their time, energy, and effort, and their money so that it brings them a better return. In other words, that's their motivation. When we talk about real estate investing, the reason why I invest, the reason why my family invests, the reason why our employees invest, the reason why our community members invest, is because real estate is a proven way to generate cash flow, generate income, and over time generate enough that you can retire in comfort or in style, depending on what you've done over the years. What we want to do is we want to help individuals understand that. I love real estate. Why? Because it's tangible. I can kick it. I can kick the bricks. I can go and experience it. I can enjoy it. It provides housing, which is one of the three basic essential needs of human beings. It also does this, is that it's a hedge against inflation, right? It's a hedge against inflation. Why? Well, because real estate generally moves with the market. It generally moves with inflation. So we don't see a decrease in the buying power of our dollar if it's parked in real estate, like you can with other things, savings accounts or stocks or bonds or mutual funds or things of that nature. With real estate, generally, there were a few years where we saw a decline, but inside of the last 50 plus years, there's only been about 3 years where real estate, took a hit nationally. Now, that's not true in each individual market, but nationally. So we've got to hedge against inflation because we know that the price of our property is going to rise and the price of our rents are going to come up as well. My father-in-law tells the story about a fourplex that he owned. Actually, he owned two fourplexes right next to each other across from Viewmont High School in Centerville, Utah. And he owned those back in the 60s. Back in the 60s. Well, back then, I think he picked them up for like $50,000 each, but he was only charging, $50 a month in rents. Those properties today will go for $600,000. $600,000. And the monthly rents on each unit are closer to $900 to $1,000. I want you to think about that. So the buying power of our dollar decreased over time, but to compensate for that, the value of the property and the value of the rents increased over time. That's why I say it's a hedge against inflation. Here's the other nice thing about it is it's insurable. A little bit difficult to do that with other investments, but you can do that with real estate. It's insurable so that you can insure against loss. You're a little nervous about flooding in your area? Well, get flood insurance. You're a little nervous about earthquakes? Well, get earthquake insurance. You're worried about the thing burning down? Well, then you make sure you're covered and it's well insured so that your property is protected, right? I just love the real estate game because it's also something that is much more predictable than it is with so many other things. And when you get 10 homes paid for, at least for most folks, not everybody, but for most folks, you get 10 homes paid for, that's your retirement and that sets you free financially because you're no longer dependent on a job or other source of income. You've got that passive income coming in from your real estate. Disruption creates dissatisfaction and leads to motivation. And that's why now is the time for us to go out there and to help people see what Renatus has to offer. That's the beauty of what we do. So let's talk a little bit about the 4 money-making activities. Over on the left of your screen, you can see that, well, we're kind of in a different dynamic these days, aren't we? Everything is being broadcast through Zoom or webinars, but we're doing online virtual presentations. We're still doing one-on-one, face-to-face presentations, right? We might not be belly-to-belly, but we're doing face-to-face because we're doing it through technology. And we've got to get better at that because, they say the new norm. Well, this is the new norm for now. I'm looking forward to getting back to the old norm to some extent, but there's such a level of comfort with technology that's being forced upon us. Isn't that interesting? We could say comfort and forced in the same sentence. We are becoming comfortable even though it was thrust upon us. And as such, there's going to be a lot of people who, because of their comfortability with it, they never want to go back. So, it's going to take some time to retrain folks as to coming to live events, coming to live meetings where we can meet belly to belly. Instead, they're going to say, well, can't you just Zoom me? Can't we just do a Skype call? Can't you do something on Microsoft Teams? I mean, let's just not leave our houses, but you can share with me what you got. So you got to get good with that, and you've got to be able to then see the people. Well, as we see the people, there's 3 different ways that you can really go out there and build your list, your prospect list. You can build it, you can borrow a list, or you can buy a list. I put share up there, but I mean, really buying a list. My experience with purchasing leads lists has never been that grand. Now, I did make sales. It certainly gave me an opportunity to just, sit on the phone and just pound away and make those calls and everything else. I generally found that I made a sale or 2 for every 100 people that, I was making contact with. So it was much less of a conversion or a closing ratio because these were just people off of a leads list. There were also a lot of folks that I could never get a hold of, and there was an awful lot of old information. So, bad phone numbers and contact information. But you can build a list or you can borrow a list from someone else. Nate Lambert is a great example of that. He's gone out and he's started to build relationship with other companies that have big lists of their clients. And because he has gained a level of trust and respect with them, he's able to now market to their customers. That's what we call by borrowing a list, right? Which continues to put him in the top #1 income earner category month in, month out. Build a list, borrow a list, or you can buy a list. Now, you can also go out there yourself and you can just make your list. And that's where I tell people to start every single time. Start by making your list of the people that you already know, and then contact them, and then start talking to the people that they know. That's the essence of networking. So see the people. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that because I think you guys are pretty good at lead generation and contacting and inviting. What's happened is that so many folks have become so comfortable as appointment setters, they have never developed skills beyond that, and we need to fix that problem, right? The next thing is this: tell the story. Tell the story. This is where you got to share, show the plan. You got to show the plan. You got to sit down with people and you got to, map this thing out. I mean, heavens, I have showed the plan in so many different ways and so many different mediums. Right now, the medium you're using is Zoom and webinars. But in the past, I mean, heavens, I've done it around a campfire with a stick in the dirt. Actually drawn out the compensation plan if I was talking to somebody about the marketing opportunity, or, shared with them what our business is all about. You've got to be able to do it at a moment's notice, with or without props, with or without PowerPoints, with or without, some of the sales aids that many have become so accustomed to and dependent on. That's why learning the Renata story, learning how to share the opportunity is so critically important. What did I do back in Amway? When I go back and I think about, those early days, I knew that if I was going to be successful and I was ever going to be standing on stage as one of the success stories, I was going to need to learn how to do what they learned how to do so that I could duplicate that success, right? I wasn't going to take a different path. I was going to follow the trail they blazed for me. So I would show up to seminar and rally, and I would show up there and I would take copious notes, man. I would just learn everything that I possibly could. I would show up to that once a month open meeting, that group introductory presentation, and I'd go in there with my tape recorder. That's right, tape recorder. And I'd go in with my tape recorder and I'd go in with a notepad. And I would just take notes. Everything they wrote on a whiteboard, everything they illustrated, everything they did, I was trying to duplicate that as best as I possibly could. I was recording it all, and then when I came out of that meeting, I was engaged in learning that information, that presentation, so that I could present it to others. See, a lot of you, sometimes we miss the importance of coming to different meetings. We miss the importance of coming to a property tour and seeing one of our leaders share with people the details of that property, and then help them understand how the Renatus Educational Program has allowed the owner of that property to fix and flip this house and make a profit. Sometimes we miss the presentations that are taking place at our intensive workshops, where it's a sales presentation in the middle of all this incredible real estate content, because we want to give people a taste of our education, but at the same time make sure they're informed on how they can get involved with us. We miss the fact that each of these are training opportunities for us. Training. Ever think of Thursday nights, or Wednesday nights, or wherever you're doing a presentation, or now Zoom meetings as a training opportunity when you're just sitting there with guests on the line watching somebody else show the plan? They are. You need to view them as such. You need to make sure that you did just like I did in the early days when I got started 34 years ago in this industry. And that is, you got to learn it so you can share it. And then you got to be able to share it so that you can have the success that's necessary to start teaching others, right? So, tell the story. Showing the plan and a bam fam. I love how Michael Huggins constantly makes an acronym out of everything. I've been talking about book a meeting from a meeting, book a meeting from a meeting, book a meeting from a meeting for as long as I can remember. He turned it into a bam fam and says, always book a meeting from a meeting. And I love that. Without you scheduling an appointment with them for your follow-up meeting, or for the intensive they're coming to this upcoming Saturday, or for whatever event it might be. But you always book a meeting from a meeting. The next thing is, of course, this: building for events. Building for events. Events are the lifeblood of our business for a lot of different reasons. Number one, brand new people come, they get inspired, they get engaged, and then they also get trained on how they themselves could be sharing this opportunity with others. The next thing is they also give us an opportunity to expose new guests and prospects to what we have in Renatus and why they would want to be involved with this incredible company and the communities that you create. They want to know that. So let's make it happen, right? So you build for events. And a BAM fan plays an important role there. At the end of any presentation, at the end of any Zoom call, at the end of any meeting, you want to always book a meeting from a meeting so that it's never one of those times where you say, yeah, I'll just get back with you. Because that never happens. There's too many things that get in the way. Here's the next thing. Follow-up. Richard Stock did a great job of helping to demonstrate to you what his follow-up looks like. It's an opportunity for question and answer. Question and answer. So it's like, what kind of questions have you got? You know, it's an opportunity to get to know your prospects better. It's also an opportunity for you to review a little bit more about our business. I love how Richard did it, and that is exactly how I would do it if I were in the field marketing today. I would pull open Helios and the value of what they're engaging in and how they're going to, over time, be able to access all of this content, all of this powerful information so that they can change their lives, right? So it's a period of demonstration. Here it is. Let's check this out together. Let me show you how you access classes. Let me show you how you can take a look at the resource library and all the real estate forms and contracts and agreements that are there available for you. Let me show you how you can download these incredible workbooks, award-winning workbooks, by the way, and how you can engage in taking notes and putting in bookmarks and making sure that you can always come back to important information that you may need later as you need a refresher course. The next thing, of course, is overcoming any objections that they may have. I love what Richard said, about the fact that, listen, if they're going to show up to a follow-up, as long as you can answer their questions to their satisfaction, they're going to get involved, right? Sometimes we view that as objections. You shouldn't be afraid of that. And I'm going to go into a whole objection training in a little bit here so I can help you understand how to overcome those things that come up. And then it's about finding agreement and asking for the order. That's it. Find agreement, ask for the order. See the people, tell the story, build for events, follow up. But if it is to be, it's what? Up to me, right? In that case, you should be rehearsing that in your mind. We each need to take personal accountability for our business rather than shifting the responsibility to others. You need to make sure that you get in front of your prospects, whether it's through Zoom or, it's someone close to you and you can meet them at a restaurant for a bite to eat. Yes, there still are restaurants in this country. And yes, there are still are states who allow you to eat and dine at one of those restaurants. I had lunch yesterday with Nicole Call, as a matter of fact, our former general counsel. And by the way, she says hi. And talked a lot about, her business and where things are going. Kind of a wild concept for so long. We weren't sure if we'd ever see that again, but it's starting to reemerge. So do the follow-up. Learn what to do. It's nothing more than an opportunity to get to know them better, question and answer, review or demonstrate, what we have to offer them, overcome any objections, find agreement, and then collect their decision and close the sale. That's it. I'm going to break it down another way for you and show you the sales process as it kind of stair steps up. As you understand the sales process, you have to understand it's your responsibility to develop skills that you can apply so that you can increase your income and success. Number one, step one is the list. You've got to be able to build your list. Either you make it from the people you know, you build it over time by the people you meet and the relationships you grow into. You borrow a list from other companies and other organizations where you can start to, get in there and speak with their customers as well. Or you can certainly buy a list from somebody who generates leads online and is willing to sell you that information. The next is this, step two, make the call. You got to have a list, but then you got to get on the phone. You got to start doing Zoom calls. You got to do phone calls with individuals so that you can engage them and pique their interest on what's going on here. Step three, tell the story. You got to be able to tell the story. Now, I put a little cup on there because sometimes you're going to do a one-on-one where you're going to meet somebody for coffee, but if you're like me, I don't drink coffee, but I do hot chocolate. So that's really just a cup of hot chocolate there. And we're going to go out and sit down and enjoy a little time together where I can explain what we do and how we do it. If you cannot do that physically on a one-on-one belly-to-belly situation, well, then do it over Zoom, and you're still doing it face-to-face. Step 4, testimonials. That's the one thing we haven't talked enough about, testimonials. And this is where I want to spend a little bit of time. Testimonials. We have a number of pre-recorded testimonials that are available for you in Helios. As a matter of fact, we've got a massive resource library that's available to you, so you can find testimonials of individuals from just about every walk of life. They're all there for you. These were folks at national conferences or at different events where we set up our cameras and our crew and we said to everybody, hey, listen, anybody who wants to share their experience with Renatus, come on over and let's film it. And they did. And now we have captured those experiences from our students from all over the country. And they're available for you in Helios in the resource library. You can use third-party testimonials by emailing those over to a prospect, or by pulling open your laptop if you're sitting there with them and just playing a few and saying, hey, listen, man, don't take my word for it. You got to see what some of these other people are experiencing and what they're saying about Renatus as well. Remember this, if you make the business completely about you, your results are going to, they're going to lack a little bit. You've got to show them that this business is so much bigger, so much grander, so much more involved than just you. So that's the reason why third-party credibility means so much in the sales process. So use those testimonials. I mean, either you email them over or you play them in front of them. Whatever you do, share what's in the Renatus resource library and share it often. Send them a link and say, you got to check this out. The next thing is three-way calling. Now, there's still a lot of folks that, for whatever reason, they're not embracing three-way calls. How would it be for you to just have, 10 or 15 good friends in the Renatus community, where you've got their contact information? And when you're on the phone with a prospect, you can say, hey, let's get a hold of so-and-so. I want to introduce you to this individual. They just barely got started with Renatus. Just got started. As a matter of fact, just a week or two ago, they were sitting in your shoes for the first time, checking this thing out, wondering whether or not it was going to be everything it was cracked up to be, right? And then you get that brand new person on the phone with your prospect, so that they can see themselves through the eyes of that person a couple of weeks ahead, actually in the business and watching classes and coming to events and getting results. That's the beauty of third-party credibility and three-way phone calls. It may be that you have access to leaders in the business who have had some great success, both on the real estate side or the marketing side or both, right? If that's the case, then great, introduce your prospect to those people. But a testimonial doesn't mean that it has to be somebody who has achieved top 10 income status in the company. Not at all. As a matter of fact, some of the most genuine, authentic, and enthusiastic testimonials will be those people who are brand spanking new, just getting started. They're engaging in their classes. They're getting on online events or Zoom calls, or they're coming to live events. And their minds have been blown, and they're thrilled about what they're enjoying. Let them share their story with your prospect. And then, so if they call you and they got a prospect on the phone, pick up the phone and take the call, right? So you can share your experience with their prospects. That's the beauty of the Renatus community. Together, everyone achieves more. That's team. And in our business, as we work together as a team, you're going to get better results. Here's the next thing. Step 5, the next event. Oh, and let me just, before I get too far into step 5, the next event, let me make sure that I help you understand. Testimonials should be used often. Follow-up is one of those things where, I mean, you should be following up within 24 to 48 hours of any exposure to Renatus. If all of a sudden, they've got kind of a blank, period of time in their schedule where they can't meet with you or they can't talk to you, or can't get on a conference call or something, see what you can do to just slip it in. Either send them an email with a testimonial attached to it and a link, so that they can view it, as they were or as they should, or send them, a text message with that link in there so they can watch it on their phone, or, call them up. Do a three-way phone call where you've already got one of your buddies in Renatus on the line. Call up your prospect and say, hey, listen, I realize you're really busy. You didn't have a lot of time to talk, but I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine in Renatus. They just got started with this, and I thought I'd let you, hear their story. Whatever it is, use testimonials. Then, of course, building for the next event is critically important. Generally, you're going to find that by the time somebody has had 3 to 5 exposures, now when I say exposures, I'm talking about, your initial call, contacting and inviting them to come to a presentation. That's still an exposure. Them coming to an introductory presentation, right? And meeting you for a follow-up appointment. That's an exposure. Them coming back to an intensive. That's an exposure. 3 to 5 is all you need. If you can't get people to sign up inside of 3 to 5 exposures, you're doing something wrong. You've got to reevaluate either what you're doing or who you're talking to. Here's another thing about our business, is that it's not for everyone. It's not. And as you learn to sell and sell more effectively, the thing that I want to impress upon you is this. You will also learn to pre-screen and pre-qualify your prospects. And you're going to find people, they're just not a good fit for Renatus. I mean, some of them are baptized in vinegar and weaned on a dill pickle, man. They've got such a negative attitude and outlook on life that they do not want to be a part of this thing. We don't want them to be a part of this thing. You've got other individuals who are so entrenched in the attitude of entitlement that you know where it's going. They're going to get involved, and if they don't get the results immediately that they think they should get, they're going to blame you, blame the company, blame everybody else for their failure. You've got other individuals who are so destitute at this time. They are so flat busted broke that they cannot pull the resources, cannot pull the money together. Those individuals need a job, right? That's what they need. They need a job, not a business yet. Get them in. I mean, tell them to go find something, so they sometimes is a mean wrong timing, or it might be that we're not a good fit for them. You've got to pre-screen and pre-qualify to ensure that we're talking to the right people. Take a look at your results. Are you getting people to presentations? Are you getting people to follow-up meetings? Are you sitting down with folks? Are you showing them, what we have to offer? And after they've been through numerous exposures, ask yourself the question, am I talking to the wrong people? And if you are, it's time to fish out of a different pond. Building for events is all about improving and increasing belief and conviction in Renatus. See, they get on the phone with you, and that's the first introduction, the first impression they have for the company, and it needs to be a good one, right? If you don't make a good first impression, then you will spend all of your time going forward trying to overcome a bad one. The next thing is get them to an introductory presentation or a briefing, whether you're doing it one-on-one or you're doing it in a group. Get them to that presentation. You always book a meeting from a meeting. That means you're going to book them to do a one-on-one follow-up with you. I mean, right now, that's the best way to really tailor the information to a person and to get them to come into the business. If they need more information beyond that, then get them to an intensive. And what happens is you're stair-stepping, and you're just going up and up and up. And as time goes on, their belief and conviction is rising to a point where they finally go, man, I'm in. Let's do this thing, right? And that's what you want to have happen with the events that they attend, improving their knowledge and understanding of our business, their comfort level with Here's the next thing. It's all about the follow-up to close. I've said it a billion times, and I'm going to say it again. Follow-up is one of those things, I should say, an ineffective follow-up process is the killer of sales and the destroyer of business. And that's how you need to view it, right? Every single thing you do should have a sales purpose. Every time you have a conversation, it should be around the opportunity to advance that person into the program. Every time you do a follow-up meeting, it is only for one reason: to answer their questions to their satisfaction and to invite prospects to make money selling Renatus educational systems. Finding deals, making offers, building relationships with vendors, suppliers, contractors. It follows very much the same kind of a process. All right. Now, again, I talked about belief and conviction. This little slide kind of helps to illustrate that. A prospect's interest level is nil, questionable, suspect, skeptical when they first get started. It's your job to give them a good first impression. Now, prospecting activity drives that up. Get them on a briefing, get them to an introductory presentation, or sit down with them and show the plan yourself on a one-on-one. That's going to pique their interest. But the time between that event and the next exposure, they're going to have a lull. It's just the way that it is. Life gets in the way, and they're going to have a lull. So you've got to get them, another exposure, whether that's a three-way call, whether that's the first meeting that they're going to come and attend, right? And then after that meeting until the next meeting, there's going to be a lull. If that lull is within a 24 to 48 hour period of time, that's okay. That's a lull that we can overcome very quickly. But if that lull, that time between meetings is a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, you got to start all over again with that prospect. Those who have the highest conversion ratios, those that have the best closing rates, they line it up so it's like boom, 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 boom. They're getting those 3 to 5 exposures done in a week, whereas some people are stretching them out over months. If you stretch it out over months, you're just going to frustrate yourself and your prospect. If you can compress it into a shorter period of time, a shorter timeline, you're going to drive more sales. You should be on purpose about that. Michael Huggins, during his training this morning, I love the fact that he showed you his calendar. He says he is always on purpose and always engaged. He knows exactly, when the last pay period of the month is, when the next pay period, when's he getting paid, when's he getting stuff done, when has he got to have orders in so that he can have an effective, successful month. He's always taking a look at ahead, what has he got to build into, what has he got to keep looking out for. You need to be doing the same thing with your prospects. You should be taking a look at the timeline and saying, my goal is to move this prospect through these different exposures in the next 10 days. And if you'll do that, and you'll do it with a sense of urgency, and you'll compress the recruiting process into a shorter timeline, you're going to have better results. Moving them from the first meeting to the follow-up meeting to the next meeting, and then again into getting involved with the business is our end goal. The fortune truly is in the follow-up, and if you're not engaged in that, then you're just missing the boat. Everything we do is to get a prospect to the follow-up. Do you realize that? Your initial conversation with a person, and then building into the introductory presentation, inviting them to come to an intensive workshop. Everything is designed to move them to the follow-up, to prepare them for the follow-up, and to prepare them to make a decision to get involved with us. Michael Huggins did this. So I'm borrowing these numbers from Michael. He went out and he did a survey of his team, and I think he probably did it on SurveyMonkey or something like that. But he did a survey of his organization. And in that survey, here's what he found when he asked them this question. How comfortable are you to conduct your own one-to-one follow-up sessions? That was the question. How comfortable are you to conduct your own one-to-one follow-up sessions? Here's what he found. 17% said super confident. Now, you know what that tells me about that 17%? They're doing them. 17% are actually doing one-to-one follow-ups out of his organization. 37% not very confident. That tells me they're not doing them, right? They've been to a number of group follow-ups, but they really aren't sure about doing them for themselves, so they're not very confident. 30%, I'll do it if I have to. Oh, those are individuals who obviously aren't doing it either. And then you've got 19% who just said, listen, I'm not confident at all. So out of his organization, those who responded to his survey, there's only 17% that I can see from the answers on this survey that are actually doing one-to-one follow-ups. If you want to increase your sales, you want to increase your income, you got to get comfortable with these things. Repetition is the mother of learning, so the more you do it, well, the better you're going to understand how to do it. It's also an interesting thing when we talk about confidence. Confidence is gained through successful repetition. Successful repetition. You've got to do it over and over and over and over again. I remember somebody asking me one day, or they didn't ask, they made a statement. They said, man, you're so comfortable in front of a group. You're so comfortable with public speaking. And I said, well, I've done it thousands of times. I mean, after you do it thousands of times, it's not really a big deal. It's just like having a one-on-one conversation. I'm just having it with a bunch of people. That's all that it really is. Same thing is true of a follow-up. The more you do it, the more confident, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. But this indicates to me that we have too few people that are building their business and driving success for themselves, and too many people who are dependent on their leaders, dependent on the group presentations to close business. I hope you just had a little aha moment. So when we talk about follow-up, again, it goes back to this. We're simply going to answer questions. It'll be a time of review and repeat or demonstration as to what they're purchasing and what we have to offer. You're going to overcome objections. You're going to find agreement, and then you're going to close. Now, that's if you're talking to an individual who is just focused on, a real estate only. They want to be a student. They want to invest. They want to go out there and start building their real estate business. What about those individuals who also go, hey man, I want to make some money as an independent contractor marketer. I want to be able to sell this education. One of the other things you slip into the follow-up presentation, if that's the case, is a compensation plan explanation. Now fortunately, our compensation plan is very simple to understand. They're going to be able to make $300 to $11,200 a sale depending on what qualification level they're at. Just show them how they make sales, how many sales they got to make to get qualified to 1-star, how many sales they got to make to get qualified to 3-star and then to 5-star. Show them how by helping other people get to 5-star they can develop overrides on an organization that develop residual income. And if you just show them the plan, the compensation plan, then that's going to help them better understand, the dual income opportunity that we have here in Renatus, where they can either do real estate or marketing or both. That's what happens on a follow-up. It's not complicated, and you just had Richard Stock do a great demonstration of how to ask those questions. The other thing you got to remember too is that not everybody is going to be ready today. Some people are going to need some extra time. So there's a cycle to life, as we will. Now it may be that if individuals are over on the left side of this cycle, this group of arrows, they are climbing the ladder of success. If you've got somebody climbing the ladder of success, they're perfectly content, perfectly happy with where they're at right now, they are not going to take a look at this or anything else because they're just going to stay the course. But if you stay in contact with that person, right? You stay in contact with that person, you're going to find the timing of their life dictates whether or not they're dissatisfied with where they're at and they have motivation for change. So, if this is the case, then, they might get to a point where they're like, ooh, so-and-so just got laid off, so-and-so just got demoted. I'm just watching things change in my environment. Maybe there's a company that's coming in and buying out the company they work for, and they know that's going to be a massive disruption. They're wondering if this is all there is. They were climbing the ladder of success, and then they found out over time that that dang ladder was leaning up against the wrong wall. What happens then? They start to question their career choice as their dissatisfaction enlarges and grows. And then they become ready and looking for a change. You know, when they become dissatisfied with where they're currently at and they're ready and looking for a change, that's when we want to talk to them about Renatus and what's going on here. That's when they are the most open to our opportunity. Now, by the time they hit the bottom of this curve and their back's up against the wall, that's when they're working from a position of desperation rather than from strength. And at that period of time, depending on their financial position and their circumstance, they might not be in the right financial position or the right frame of mind to get involved and start a business in Renatus. It depends on the individual. I've watched some individuals whose back was against the wall. They came in and they just crushed it because they had no other alternative. I've watched others flounder, and I want to make sure that, you know, we are meeting the needs of our customers and our ICMs. So, you know, think about that. The cycle of life. What it really helps you to better understand is that a no today is not a no forever. It just means not now, right? But you stay in touch with those people because I've got a philosophy. You follow up until they buy or die. Let's talk a little bit about overcoming objections. Oh, and you know what? We're right at the top of the hour. And I know that you know, we're trying to stick to about an hour of content and then a 10-minute break. Let's take 10 minutes. Let's go to break. And then let's come back, and I'm going to dive into some simple step-by-step formulas on how you can become an objections master and overcome objections regardless of what comes your way. So let's give it 10 minutes, and I'll see you right back here. Thanks, everybody.
It's a newborn chaperone standing in the corner, watching the young girl